Aloha and welcome to another episode of Hawaii Farmers Series. I am your co-host, Justine Espiritu, and this is my co-host, the wondrous Matthew Johnson of Oahu Fresh. We are here every Thursday from 4 to 5. Thank you so much, Think Tech, for giving us this time slot to talk about the important issues of local ag and local farmers. So what we want to do is bring on the farmers in our community that are feeding our communities, as well as the supporters that kind of feed into our local food system. We want to hear their backstory, why they love what they do, and their vision for local food in Hawaii. And so Matthew is going to share the info about today's guests.
Great, thank you, Justine. So today's guest that we have with us Jason Shitanishi, who is the Oahu Honolulu County Executive Director for USDA Farm Services Agency. And then we also have Stephen Chiang, who is the Executive Director at UH's Ag Incubator Program, as well as the Director for Go Farm Hawaii. Right on, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Very excited to have you.
Thanks for having us on the show.
And so for today's show, we're talking about different support programs that are out there for Hawaii's farmers. As we know, farming is one of the hardest professions in the world, and they need as much help and support as possible. So that's why it's great that guys like you are available to help them out. So look forward to hearing about the different programs that you guys represent. So to get started, Jason, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, let us know a little bit more about USDA and its role and your role there and how you got into that.
Well, USDA is actually a really big agency. There's like 17 different sub-agencies within USDA, and I'm with the Farm Service Agency. And when I tell people what my position is, which is the County Executive Director, oftentimes they think I'm a city and county or a state employee, but we're federal, and we're here basically to primarily help family-sized farms.
So how did you, how long have you been with the USDA, and how did you get into that line of work?
Been with the USDA Farm Service Agency now a little over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And what got me into it, I kind of just fell into it. I was actually at the bank. My business background actually is finance. But I grew up on a farm in Hawaii Kai, small family farm, and the opportunity came up and I applied, and luckily I got the job.
Right on. So before we move over to Stephen though, can you give us a little more background on, maybe start with the agency that you work with, the Farm Services Agencies. What is the main, mission? Like, why would a farm be interested to come and talk to you?
Primarily, we're mostly out here in Hawaii. It is family-sized farms. So we have loan programs, disaster, conservation, and some other legislative programs that come out. So we're specifically farm-related and farm services. So obviously, any local farmer would be interested in our programs and services we offer.
So when you say family size, can you kind of define that?
For our farm loan program, for instance, one of the primary eligibility requirements is that you have to be a family-sized farm. So people involved in the farm have to be actively involved, not only in the management, but also in the operation of the farm itself. And we also have income limitations. So if you make over a certain income threshold, you'd be ineligible for our program. So you can't be too big, yeah.
Okay, so you have kind of a specific market that you're gearing towards supporting.
That's what we're really designed to do.
So maybe like an ag farm, like say Dole, maybe they wouldn't be eligible for
Correct.
A lot of the programs?
Monsanto would be another one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it would be eligible.
Yeah. But then probably 99% of the farms that we have here in Hawaii would be eligible then?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Stephen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about Ag Incubator Program as well as your background and how you got into that.
Okay, the Agribusiness Incubator Program is a program of the University of Hawaii, and it was started through a federal grant about 12 years ago. So, knock on wood, but we've been lucky enough to continue to get that grant. And in a nutshell, we're business consultants for agriculture. So we serve the state and we do business consulting type of things like business plans, financial analysis, marketing plans and so forth. So we take on clients, and our clients range from large to small, but although we're not mandated to work with small, that's the vast majority of our clients, right? So they'd be like pre-startup, I wish I had a farm, all the way up to, and I'm talking about the bulk of our clientele, to I've been in operation for a few years and I really want to take the next step and grow, increase my profits or maybe save my farm. The second part to your question, I'm trying to remember. Oh, how did I get into this?
We've got some notes that we wrote here of your history if you can't remember.
No, I don't actually read. But, no, the second part, how I got into farming, and it's probably a familiar story with many people you're going to meet, is by accident, sort of, right? So I was in management consulting, and one of my colleagues went over and took this job at UH. He was the first director of the Agribusiness Incubator program. And he had to staff the program. At that time, the local office of this large global management consulting company closed because Hawaii just didn't have enough of the business. And so he recruited all these guys, myself included. And so from management consulting, yeah, I didn't know anything about agriculture, but for the past 11 years, hopefully by now I know a little bit. Yeah. So that's my story.
I'm interested in, so you kind of have a niche market of the businesses you are aiming towards. How do you guys do your outreach, and how do farms know they can come to you?
Steve, you can start off with that.
Okay, so
just passing it down the line.
I gotta think.
So we don't actually eat our own dog food. That's a term, okay? Basically,
from where?
We tell our clients, management consulting term. We tell our clients, how to market and this sort of thing. But when it comes to marketing ourselves, we could do a lot better. So there's a lot of word of mouth. But we recently, run some print ads in a couple of local farm-focused magazines. We also will go out to various agriculture events and speak there. You just try to kind of put ourselves out there so people know we exist. Because we take on clients, our bandwidth is not huge. In other words, we kind of cap out at about 40 clients a year. And so, yes, what we've been able to attract so far has been sufficient. But that's kind of how we do it. Yeah.
So Stephen, describe for us a little bit. Let's say I want to start getting into farming. That's something I wanted to do for a long time. I have an idea, and I call you up and ask for an appointment. What are some of the typical, what's the typical process that we would go through together, and what kind of services would you and your team provide?
Oh, that's a good question. So we have an application form. Anybody that applies, we call and either set up a time to talk on the phone, or we'll actually go and visit their operation. So if you're not a pre-startup, but like you have a chicken egg-laying farm, something like this, we'll go visit your operation, no matter where it is in the state, and we'll talk story, basically. It's not always necessarily the best fit. So that's what we're trying to determine, right? Are you in a position to take advice? Because sometimes we give advice, and if it's not taken, it's kind of, a little bit of waste of time on our part. And, do you have, I guess it's kind of a needs identification. So are we a good fit for each other? And then as far as the next step in the process, we accept you as a client. And that's sort of based on who's applying at the time. We do rank them because, again, we have a limited bandwidth. And once we accept you as a client, there's a standard process where we might look at strategically where do you want to go and what pieces need to be in place. There's also another approach where folks will come to us and say, I need a business plan because I want to apply for this grant.
Right.
Okay, very focused.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. and so we might just do that right away. Or like FSA might send folks our way and say they need certain things in place to get this loan. But the more holistic approach is to look at things strategically, and then it's very flexible, right? What do they need? Do they need a web presence? We can build websites, right? That's not our expertise, but we'll go do that. Or do they need to figure out which one of their crops is making them money? We'll do a cost of production. Do they just need something, really holistic? It's one of the interesting things that I've come to learn about our value is simply in being there, So a lot of entrepreneurs, and not just farmers, it's kind of a lonely business, right? You're making a lot of decisions with risks involved. There's so many opportunities for you to pursue. And so just being there sort of de facto board of advisors, it's hard to describe that value, but our clients really value that.
So does it act as kind of like a cohort environment, or is it very individual? Like your applicants and customers don't necessarily get to learn from each other. It's just kind of one-on-one.
That's the way we designed it. We've always taken the point of view that this is all confidential. And so what you share with us in our meeting room or in your office or whatever just stays there. So yeah, I've become a great believer in the power of groups, but not at that program. We keep it separate.
So just going to go to Jason now that you've had a little bit of time to think about it while Stephen was talking. So there's so many programs that I know you guys administer, and then within USDA as a whole. How do you guys do outreach?
Our outreach for locally here in Hawaii, it's a little bit different approach that we found that works best, which is basically face-to-face.
So different than what's happening on the mainland?
In a way. I think in different states, every state has their own, I guess you would say, market or block of particular type of producers. It depends on culture, diversity of crops, etc. So in our case, we have a lot of ethnic immigrant farming operations. So they're not as much into the Twitter, e-media, electronic media. So the best approach for them, over the years I've learned, because I've been around 20 years, has been face-to-face meeting with them out in where they're comfortable, which could be someone's farm operation or warehouse, or going through various farm leaders and groups and organizations. So you have like the Lao Farmers Association, or maybe a Chinese Farmers Association, different type of particular groups, and then we'll approach them, ask them for their support, and if there's something that benefits the farmers, everybody's in for it. And that's how we've been working it throughout the years. But we've also been ramping up recently, trying to get much more participation for electronic media and whatnot, through our newsletters and our website. So you can sign up for Gov Delivery too, which is another option for farmers out there.
Yeah. So it seems like you guys go above and beyond just saying, hey, here's our program, come and get it. You're really getting out into the field and doing what makes sense to actually be effective.
Yes, definitely.
Great.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing, and I don't know if you would agree with this, Jason. But yeah, outreach is a big part of what we do.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely have some more questions on that, especially kind of how you translate kind of federal programs and how you translate it to Hawaii, and also a little bit more about how you get folks involved. But we're going to take a quick 1-minute break, and then we will be right back.
Sounds good.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on Think Tech Hawaii. Center Stage airs every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and of course you can check out our archives on YouTube or on Think Tech Hawaii anytime you like. Why should you do that? Because this is an arts show that I believe is making a difference in lives. We talk with artists of various ilk. We talk with painters and writers, playwrights, novelists, poets, sculptors, dancers, you name it, directors, actors, of course. And we don't only talk about what people do, but we talk about how they do it. And my favorite part of the conversation, we talk about why they do it. And it's really common on this show to hear people say, wow, I didn't think about it that way. And it's very common to hear people afterwards who have seen the show say the same thing. And I hear all the time that people are inspired by the conversations that we have. So why don't you join us and be inspired too? That's Center Stage on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. We'll see you Center Stage.
Aloha and welcome back to the Hawaii Farmers Series. I'm your co-host Justine Espiritu, and this is my co-host Matthew Johnson of Oahu Fresh. And so we're just going to get right back into it. We have Jason and Steven, and we are talking about programs in Hawaii that are supporting farmers, large and small. So yeah, just kind of get back to your position. Do you have, you kind of touched on different regions, different states kind of have their approach to how they're kind of execute their programs. Could you talk a little bit more about how, was that your role to kind of figure out, get to know the community and see what was best of how you get people involved in your programs?
Yeah, we have our primary goals from the agency also. So even right now, one of our major goals rolling out for this fiscal year and in the short term is to increase participation, particularly among socially disadvantaged, we call it, but I don't like to use that term, but it's basically
tend to be like immigrant groups.
Immigrant, women, disabled, veterans, etc. Yeah. So with that in mind, we have to tailor our outreach for these groups, correct? So whatever works best for them is what we're trying to move towards. So in that vein, that's why we're trying to do a lot more face-to-face and active participation.
And that's a national kind of goal?
Yes.
And then I'm curious in terms of Hawaii has kind of some specific issues, primarily looking at how much we import. Do you have your own local goals that are Hawaii specific? Are you trying to increase production, increase the number of farms, or something along those lines?
We don't actively talk about, there's 4 different major counties within the state of Hawaii that we work together, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't meet together and say this is going to be how we're going to approach it. Each county does it with their own group that they have, and office staff. Because each county actually in and of itself is different, the groups that they work with. So,
sure, definitely.
And some counties obviously have a much higher workload than others. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to work around it. And it comes to a certain point where there's also too much outreach right also. So we're trying to balance everything and still try to increase our participation, which has been working pretty well over the last 5-10 years. It's been really good.
So Jason, can you talk a little bit about some of the other agencies within the USDA? I know there's Rural Development.
Yes.
And also NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Services. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with them and how it's a complete package that is offered to some of the clients you work with?
Yeah, I would say about 15 years or so, maybe even a little bit further than that, we started up what they call a service center organization. So there's 3 sister agencies within a service center, and that'd be, as you mentioned, ourselves, Farm Service Agency, Natural Resource Conservation Service, and Rural Development. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for farmers to come for assistance. So our side is all ag specific. Natural Resource Conservation Service is more technical, conservation related, right? Just like their name is conservation. Rural Development is housing and development of rural communities. So together we help each other out. And Farm Service Agency is, I guess you could also say, they're kind of like the gatekeeper, administrator. So most farmers coming in for assistance comes through our office first. We put them in our system, build their farm and tract, and then they move on to the other programs.
I have a question for you. The same kind of question. Since their goal is to increase the number of participants and farmers they're reaching out to, but you kind of have a limited capacity. So what is your kind of metrics and goals?
Okay, well, I'll talk about our metrics. We are really focused on the sort of the business metrics, right? So we're business consultants. So it's number of employees, acres in production, revenue and profit. So those would be our major metrics that we track. And as far as our goals, we just really want to make a difference in those metrics. I mean, it sounds like I'm waffling about it, but really we want folks to be profitable.
Yeah.
And in Hawaii, in farming, I guess in general, being profitable is certainly no guarantee, right? It has earned its reputation of being, I guess, financially difficult. And so, when we can change that, then we feel we're successful because that's where we're focused, right, on sort of those volumes and dollars. Yeah.
Okay, and then you said you've kind of been doing this for about 11 years, and you mentioned something about like website. I'm kind of curious of maybe some elements that have become important in terms of a business being successful. How do you, you guys kind of have to stay on top of that and then translate that to farmers?
Yeah.
Is that particularly difficult in this industry versus?
Well, it's a good question because I've actually given this some thought over the years. Okay, so a little bit of history. You know, we came in, we're management consultants. We know what we're doing, right? We know how to create these things. But agriculture, you know, if you look at it fundamentally as a manufacturing activity, okay, if you're looking at producing things, there's some major differences. The variables are just way out of line, right? You've got weather, bugs, you know, diseases, everything like this. There's a lot of, it's very capital intensive, right? You have to invest everything, wait, let things come out, right? And so, and the audience we were serving, we found out, for better or worse, weren't really as, on average, business savvy, I would say, right? They're focused on farming. That's what they like to do. And so we changed our approach, and what we found worked well was really simplifying things. Instead of trying to get to the 100%, like here's your 50-page business plan, we tried to get to that 80% value because it was much quicker, right? People stay like interested in what we're doing with them. But more specifically, things like figuring out the cost of production. How much does it actually cost me to offer this 1 pound or 1 fruit or 1 bunch, right? How much does it cost me to actually do that? And some really interesting answers come out of that analysis. And, you know, more to the point, the business decisions to get those answers. So that's part of it. Just the focus on the business, like marketing is not a project, marketing is a function, right? So getting our clients to kind of understand that. So the little things like a website, right? Again, there's a lot of human factors involved. So getting a business card, getting a website, small things, right? But having that all of a sudden, okay, now this tends to happen. I'm so much invested. Wow, look at my business, right? These are for the startups. So yeah, paying a lot of attention to the human side is something that we found quite important versus coming from management consulting side or dealing with big companies. It's all just straightforward, you know.
And so just kind of like leading off with that then, so, I mean, I understand like you guys have a lot of different programs and there's probably a lot of paperwork and getting funding and all these kind of things, but what would you say is your guys' like success stories? And I know you guys have had them, and Stephen, you were kind of starting to talk about them, but I mean, Jason, you've been doing this for, you said 22 years?
20 years, a little over 20.
20 years. Wow.
20 years.
Wow.
Started when he
Wow.
was 12.
Jeez.
I wish I did.
It's
I
like
could
almost
say
2 decades.
Yeah, it's been a while. But success stories,
Yeah, I mean, what keeps you stoked in doing this?
really, I think because of the programs themselves, yeah, we're obviously out there. Whenever we do outreach, we always introduce, oh, these are the money guys with the benefits for you. And that perks up everybody's ear. Yeah, so, yeah, that's rewarding in and of itself. But as far as success for the agency itself locally, and particularly our county office.
And also
I would
you
say
personally.
Yes, me, everything-wise, it's been the increase in participation, particularly among immigrant minority producers. Because when I first started, we had a pretty low caseload of loans, but now it's really picked up. It's been pretty exponential, so it's been really good. And it's come to the point where we don't have to really actively go out anymore to get participants or farm loan inquiries. We receive a lot of calls every week now, so yeah. It's not like we're turning anyone away, but that's a pretty good luxury to have.
So what are the kinds of successes or what are the farms getting out of these programs? Is it just increasing their capacity to produce more, or is it more specific?
I think overall it's actually It's widespread, it's broad spectrum. So you have particular programs, like we have a reimbursement program to offset transportation costs. So that's specifically for your transportation costs, and it's basically free money, right?
So when you say transportation costs in terms of moving their product from farm to market, or them, yeah, what do you mean by transportation
even
costs?
any inputs that you come in and you use for your farming operation to cultivate the commodities you produce, right?
Oh, okay.
There's usually, especially in Hawaii, there's a transportation cost associated with it. And also for a lot of the farm operations that export, that's obviously a high transportation cost. So
Oh, okay.
there's a particular program that just came out with this newest farm bill that helps to offset those costs. So in those cases, it's very direct and, you know, just for transportation basically and your inputs. Whereas a loan program, what we've been trying to work with immigrant minority producers in particular is you need to establish yourself sooner or later, because you need to understand that farming is a business. So you have to operate it as such. So if you're gonna move off, you're gonna move to the next level, you have to increase your leverage. And the way to do that is actually through loans, because most people don't have the cash. Right? So you establish your credit and increase your leverage, build up your farm operation, and hopefully you move on to success. And we've seen a number of operations do that, yeah, which is good.
And a quick question before we go to Stephen, though. So that's one of the probably biggest thing that you guys are known for are the ag loans.
Yes.
What is more beneficial about the ag loans through you guys than, say, just going to Bank of Hawaii?
Oh, there's a big difference, and that's what makes it such a popular program. Is our interest rates are quite a bit lower, right? We also have a lot more flexible servicing options as far as rescheduling, rewrites. In farming, as you guys know, part of farming is it has a lot of natural disasters and things that come up out of your control, whether it be your market, storms, etc. So we have servicing, whereas most commercial banks, you pretty much head down to the loss adjustment department after your 60 days passed. Right. Yeah, we have more servicing options that way. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we will get to Stephen as a response on that, but first we're going to take another quick break.
We need more time.
Aloha, I'm Kirsten Baumgart-Turner, and I host Sustainable Hawaii every Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. My guests offer insights on challenging economic and environmental issues facing our state and offer innovative solutions to increasing Hawaii's long-term sustainability. Recently, we've been focusing on sustainable land development, food, and energy security. If you have a project or issue you'd like to discuss on the show or would like to be a guest, please contact me at kirstenbturner@gmail.com. And tune in live weekly or view the show at your convenience at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.
And I learned a lot about your stuff you do.
Aloha.
That I wasn't aware of.
Welcome back to the Hawaii Farmer Series. I'm your co-host, Justine. This is Matt.
Hello, and yes, so we're here again with Jason Shitanishi and Stephen Chiang, talking about different support programs for Hawaii's local farmers. So we'll be talking about all the different programs that they do, talking about success stories, and we just ran out of time before the last commercial. We're getting ready to go and hear from Stephen. We wanted to hear about his success stories. What makes him super excited to drive from Mililani to UH every day to do what he does?
Well, it was so, okay, first personal story, but I don't live in Mililani anymore, man.
Oh,
I got sick and tired of that
you moved.
business.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Fantastic.
You didn't love it enough to do that drive anymore.
It was still worth it. No, but so I gave this some thought, right? For some other reason, I had to kind of like do some introspection on like, what is it about ag? Yeah. And for me personally, it's not about ag itself. It's just helping people. It sounds kind of
Warm and
fuzzy, but
My favorite.
This agriculture really needs help. It has a number of challenges, and when we can make a difference, that's what I get jazzed about, right? And so luckily, we've been able to do that enough times that I'm still happy to come to work. Just a couple stories then. People do apply for grants. There's federal money for various projects in agriculture. And I think in the past 6 months, probably, I'm just rounding here, our clients we've helped them attract about $500,000 worth of funding through various grants.
Awesome.
So that's cool, right? That's the federal money coming into our state. It's helping these guys do what they want to do. Yeah, various things. I mean, our clients have gotten into Costco. Not that that's the ultimate goal, but I mean, they've grown. See, now I'm drawing a blank. Just launched new products on the market, won various contests. I mean, it's really cool. Again, but because we have that sort of confidentiality of who we're working with and what we're doing for them, we tend not to name names as I guess, much as we'd like.
I have a question. So you say, do you help on some grant applications?
Yes.
Or I'm curious of kind of what I'm excited to see in agriculture and farming here is the collaborations that kind of happen. Can you share, or either of you share anything about some success stories in that sense?
Well, I guess you could start off even with collaboration amongst the agencies and organizations involved with agriculture. So that was one of the first things that I wanted to start up when I started with the agency, because I did notice when I first started, people would come in and they go, I didn't even know who you guys were. In fact, I still don't understand. And to this day, my kids still don't know exactly, even know exactly what I do. But I think part of that was building up some of these outreach efforts with interagencies. And each one would be given allotted maybe 5 or 10 minutes to speak about their particular programs. And that really helped out a lot. And we give fact sheets out and with contact information. That was one of the ways that we reached out to immigrant farmers too.
And this was like an annual event that you typically do out at a farm and invite all these different agencies and support organizations.
Yep, and Maddie J was one of the first guys we invited to, and part of that too.
Usually there's a party afterwards.
Yes, yeah, it was fun. It really is. It was great. Yeah. Go ahead, Steve, if you have.
Question? It was collaboration.
Collaboration. Or for example, I'm like interested in maybe where farmers and agriculture have like intersected other industries. For example, of trying to get maybe food into our elementary schools or school cafeterias. Those kind of things that are maybe that move Hawaii forward in terms of local ag.
How much time you got? There's a lot of activity, interest that either involves ag directly or just indirectly. There's movements, I'll say that plural, where folks are just getting interested, or more interested rather, in agriculture and its role with social justice, for instance, the environment, food security, childhood obesity, just all these sort of issues that sort of overlap ag. And so it's a really cool place to be right now, right? Just from getting involved in various efforts that have a lot of energy behind it.
Yeah. So do you get tied into that, even though your metrics and focus is just on the business development?
We do.
Do you get tied into those integrations?
I'll drop just some terms like slow money, the farm to school. I was invited to that, but it's like there's so many things going on that we do have to sometimes remember what we're supposed to be doing and kind of focus. But farm to school is another one I was invited to, or our group was, and we pulled back from that just because, okay, let them do their thing. Beginning farmer training, through the Go Farm program. And so there's a whole bunch of things going on.
So kind of moving forward, like with the agency and the organizations that you guys work with, and we're all trying to make Hawaii ag a stronger industry. With the work that you guys are doing, but also in general, what are kind of next steps that you see that need to happen? So Jason, from kind of like the federal government's role in even further supporting farms, what do you see as being needed? And then also, Stephen, for you, like, do we need more ag incubators? And what's kind of like the future of your organization as this affects the overall industry?
As far as the federal side with USDA, I say pretty much without a doubt, the way we're going to best support farmers moving on from here is, I know it sounds, but training, and information services as far as there's some new regulatory requirements coming up with food safety, right?
Yeah.
And the Food Security Act. So with that in mind.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, just.
Yeah, it's already been enacted. It's coming down the road, and what's coming out now is the funds are rolling out. They're contracting different organizations to provide outreach. But the Food Security Act is going to require, if you want safer foods, there's a lot of capital improvements that have to be made. It costs money. Farmers have to change gears. It's complicated for many of the farmers. So right now, some of the smaller farmers are flying under the radar, but eventually it'll all catch up with everyone. So as far as we were talking about with collaboration, I think not only federal side, but we're going to have to work with state, counties, other various local agency organizations to bring up farmers to know enough what's involved and help them with that. So on our side, it'll be our loans particularly. Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the specific elements of that, like to be food safety? So what kind of changes need to happen? I know for one, it's like your operations are when you're processing things, it needs to be in a closed place.
Right.
So can you just talk about some of those other specific things?
I'm not involved in the particular agencies for the details on that, but I have heard about it. But basically, it's water quality issues too, right? What you wash your produce with has to be tested. The area, like you said, enclosed facilities, stainless steel tanks, temperature, all of that is
Bathrooms on the property.
correct. Food, even worker safety. There's so much regulatory rules and regulations, even regarding the chemicals you use, right? And you apply fertilizer, pesticides. So it's pretty complicated. That's why I think now more than ever, farmers got to realize that it's a business, and with a business, and you're feeding other people, there's going to be regulations involved, right?
So that's why it's great to have you guys to kind of break down what those regulations are, not only give that information, but then you also have resources to help them in that transition.
Yes, yeah. And then for our agency, it's not going to be the technical side half as much as actually providing the loan fund, yeah.
Okay.
Great. So, yeah, Stephen, so moving on to you. I know you tend to forget what the question was. What was the question again? So kind of talking about the Ag Incubator program as the future of the program, do you see that we need more Stephen Chiangs running around the state, and how does these incubator programs, what's the future of it?
When we talk about the agribusiness incubator program, right, it's a little bit of a misnomer. We're business consultants, so we don't incubate companies in this traditional sense. Could we use more of us? We're a staff of 3. There's Erica and Janelle. Could we use more of us? Certainly. Is that going to happen? Probably not. I'm not holding my breath. But as far as any trends, as far as what's going on in the future, there's one interesting thing that's not directly related to our program, but we see happening is cooperative farming, right? And co-ops have a varying reputation, but you know, when it does work, and not co-ops from a legal sense, but just cooperation, you know, we see that addressing a lot of the issues with scale in terms of costs and efficiencies and things like this. And so when, you know, we've seen it working recently, and it's very exciting.
So this is like our guest that we had a couple weeks ago?
Last week?
Right.
Last week?
It was just last week.
I thought it was like
La
2
Mea
weeks ago.
and Sean.
Friends with Farms.
Right, it's very cool because I think they're not approaching it from, okay, let's form a cooperative to do this, you know, cooperatives are normally commodity cooperatives. We're all doing onion, we're all doing corn, whatever, right? This is more, they just see an advantage of working together. And I know for some of them, they came up through the Go Farm program, and they're used to working together, so that's really neat. I'm going to kind of piggyback on your point, Jason. All these federal programs, or regulations rather, right, they are definitely present more obstacles or more burden on the farmer. But interesting thing, because I'm the marketing guy in our group, right, if you are the one that's willing to go and take on those regulations and really, you know, hit it and be compliant and so forth, you can differentiate yourself and give yourselves an advantage in the marketplace, right? Certified food safety, put a stamp on your thing, right? So these sort of things. So, you know, it is tough. Everybody has to deal with it. And so I'm trying to look at the positive side of it.
Trying to look at the positive
Yeah.
side of it.
There is a positive side.
Yeah.
So it sounds like maybe one approach could be through our having these smaller farms that they're able to come together cooperatively and then kind of take on some of these federal regulations that are coming down the pike.
Yeah, there are models. The food safety certification. They are. I'm not sure where they are, because again, I'm not
Right.
steeped within this issue, but they are looking at a group certification.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So just like what you're talking about, right? People can get together and share that burden.
Great.
So we have 2.5 more minutes.
Arm wrestle?
It's your turn. Your turn.
So one more question I want to leave you guys with then is
Here it comes. Here it comes.
what is another success story?
Yeah,
No.
Go ahead, Steve. You can go ahead with your success story.
Another success story. What was really cool, I'll tell you a story about Justine.
Yes.
Yeah,
This is what I've been
we're
waiting
out of
for.
No, we had Senator Hirono come and visit the Go Farm program, right? It's a farmer training program. And I guess she liked it enough that she came back again and brought the Deputy Secretary of the USDA to go visit the program. And the Deputy Secretary singled out Justine, and she sat down with her and talked to her for quite a while, right? So, you know, it's this idea of, I guess, women in agriculture. And so that was really neat, right? So I'm hoping that that becomes a little sub-movement of its own in Hawaii, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And in fact, some of our clients, you know, again, marketing side, I'm thinking, how can we leverage this, you know, for some marketing? But I think it's great.
Well, the show just came full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have those opportunities and have those connections to federal agents and people in DC that are kind of in charge, and getting that perspective and being able to translate it into local solutions and collaboration among federal agencies, the university, incubator programs, and Oahu Fresh and small farmers.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been really fun the past couple of weeks just to bring in all the different people in the industry and just hang out and get some background and see where ag is going in Hawaii.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you for having the show.
Yeah.
You're
Yay,
welcome.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So watch us next week and every Thursday here on Think Tech at 4 p.m.
Aloha.
Bye.